Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the ice tonight. It's our Thursday edition. Thanks to our sponsors, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, and of course, Stokes Brookfield. Tonight's guest with me is a counterpart, a fellow associate with ASTV, but he had the opportunity this past weekend to head out just outside of Calgary to the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp with ASTV as we were doing all the games there and their play-by-play. Mr. Cody Wall. I haven't had the chance to really chat with him about hockey and what he does and how he does things, but I'm welcoming him to my show. Maybe I'll get the same reciprocity to his too. We'll see what happens. Nonetheless, Cody and I are going to sit down and we're going to chat about lots of great things hockey, and we're going to see what we can do and have fun with our conversation as well as the NHL. So please welcome tonight's guest on the ice, Mr. Cody Wall. Cody Wall, thanks for joining me. Of course, somebody has to call in the middle of my show, which I'm not happy about, but nonetheless, it happens. Great to see you. Great to see you back home. A little bit of a delay. We won't give Flair Air their props because, quite frankly, there's no props to be given when you got to get home and you got work to get done. And they decided to just cancel your flight for no good reason, right, Cody?
Yeah, definitely. First, thanks for having me on, Theo. But yeah, definitely was a bit of a rigmarole trying to get back here to Manitoba. I know we had talked a little bit on Monday night about possibly trying to make something work for Tuesday, but just due to being stuck in Calgary and then Edmonton for an extra day, just weren't able to make it work for Tuesday's show.
I wonder if Glenn would have had any hair left if your flight to Calgary on Friday was delayed, knowing that you were cutting it pretty darn close because you basically hopped on a plane in Winnipeg and you had 3 or 4 hours to get to the rink outside of Calgary for the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp. Tell us how that was a bit of an issue, not an issue, but how exciting it was for you to head there and to enjoy the entire weekend outside of Calgary.
Yeah, it was awesome. I got a chance to take off work early on Friday. Well, I actually didn't go into work on Friday and flew out, like you said, on Friday morning. And yeah, after this whole experience, flying back to Winnipeg definitely would have been a lot more problematic trying to get out there. Glenn probably would have been sweating a bit there trying to rush to make something happen. Fortunately, was able to make it there safe and sound, and was able to see some high-level junior prospects come together from a number of age groups from 07 to 03, and definitely was some good quality hockey that was on display then over the weekend.
So you said 2003 to 2007 was the age groups. We're talking players, looking for their next home, their progression in their careers in their hockey. What did you have to do, Cody, in preparation before heading to Calgary to obviously, get yourself familiar with some of the players? I mean, it's hard to remember 300 plus players that you've never seen before, never seen the jersey number. I'm assuming there were no name bars on the back of the jerseys. So what were you trying to do before the weekend to prepare as best as possible?
Yeah, so I like you said, there weren't any name bars or anything like that on the back of the jerseys. Actually, just with some of the in and out players with some of the injuries that unfortunately had happened, there was a number of roster changes that did happen throughout the weekend. So, keeping up with that was definitely something you had to keep in mind. But over the weeks leading up to this camp, me and Glenn had been talking back and forth a bunch and getting the rosters beforehand, trying to get a bit of an idea of who's going to be on what team, doing a little bit of research. I had actually had a couple of the players that were at the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp on my show, Off the Wall with Cody, just interviewing them about what they were going to be kind of looking forward to and about their seasons. So just through that was able to get a little bit get to know a couple of players, a handful of players before going.
So speaking that respect. What did you notice from the players you spoke with? But then seeing them, did you have a keen eye finding them on the ice and trying to see how well they played, and not mention with their how their play defined themselves, but how it matched how they discussed on your show their type of play, and did it match correctly?
Yeah, definitely. There was the players that I had interviewed kind of did stick out and was able to keep a bit of a better eye out for those players and kind of analyze my kind of looking at their game versus how they had kind of described it. And, most cases, the players were pretty on point for describing their style of play and the way they like to play.
Did you notice a huge difference between the maturity of an 03 player and an 06, 07 player, but also how surprising the 06s and 7 played to beef up their game and to show that, they're not someone that you should forget?
Yeah, definitely. You could see there was a bit of a gap in some of the age group. Definitely the older players were able to, for the most part, stand out a little bit more, but there definitely were some 06s and 07s that were able to not only just keep up, but were able to, match, if not outmatch, some of the 03, 04 players that were in attendance.
Cody, did you have a chance to talk with some of the people that were in the spectating side of things, some of the organizers, some of the scouts, some of the people that were watching some of these players? What was their attitude, and what were they looking for in terms of the player attributes and the profiles, and what stood out to them as being how great of a camp this is?
Yeah, I got a chance to speak to Wayne Kozar a bunch over the weekend, him being one of the major sponsors of the camp. And, he was really looking for just to see some good effort level. That's the biggest thing. Really was seeing that you were able to put out a full, I guess, 66-minute effort just with the being 22 minute runtime periods, but seeing, making sure the effort level doesn't dip throughout games. We did see a number of, I shouldn't say a number, but we did see a few games that were getting out of hand and just kind of seeing how you react to that kind of adversity.
Absolutely. No, it's certainly the adversity of, being a single player, being put on a team where you haven't played with any of the other participants, and then having to show your best skate forward amongst, the crowd and the possible next places you could potentially be playing in. Shout out to Wayne, first off, as well, CEO of Trailblazer Hockey, who was the MVP sponsor for the entire tournament. Wayne's always on my show Tuesday nights on ASTV. If you want to watch one of the shows, please find us on any of the media channels. Cody, what are some of the conclusions you can give us for you personally on the camp, and what do you look forward to upcoming at the end of June? Because you get to go back and help assist with the Brick tournament, which is much longer and a much larger tournament. Give us some ideas of what you're looking forward to there, as well as what some of the conclusions were in this past weekend with the WCHEC.
Yeah, definitely. This kind of event does kind of prepare me for the upcoming Brick Invitational tournament. And that's a tournament even before working for ASTV, that's a tournament I've always kind of kept an eye on and thought, it was a pretty neat idea. Just the fact that, you get a bunch of the top players at that age group coming together in Edmonton. And, often you do see a lot of the top end Canadian players and American players coming out of that tournament and, going on to having prominent careers in not just, junior, but major junior, and some even getting chances to play pro, whether it be in North America or overseas in Europe.
So that's happening at the end of June, going into the first week of July. Cody Wall, as well as some of the other participants, some of the members of ASTV will be down at the Brick Invitational. Cody, what else do you have planned for the late spring, early summer? I mean, obviously, warmer weather. What do you like to do outside of being behind the mic?
Yeah, I like to, me and my wife had last year, bought a camper. We're going to try and get into the camping while ASTV kind of, at least for the hockey side of it, is slowing down a little bit here. It's going to ramp up a lot coming into that September, but there is a little bit of a lull here. Maybe try to get some camping in, as well as maybe go to, I used to stock car race, so go to watch some of my old friends race at St. Adolphe there, and cheer them on.
Absolutely. Are you a funny? What's your? Are you a modified kind of guy, Cody, or what kind of role do you do in there?
Yeah, a modified kind of car. Yeah, I used to race what's called a street stock or a hobby stock, and then moved up to the modified division.
There we go. Good buddy Scott Greer, mine, is in there as well. I know he's been around there for quite a bit now. He's down in the States in Texas. So shout out to Scotty as well. I'm sure you've met him or know of him very well. We'll be back on a break. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk to Cody about how he got into broadcasting, how it's become more of something he's done very well over the last year, especially with the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy this past season. Stay with us here on the ice.
Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Joining me on the ice tonight, Cody Wall. Cody, I didn't realize you were married. Congratulations.
Yeah, me and my wife, we've been married for now since 2016, so we're going on 6 years here. So going strong.
What did you tell your wife when you told her? What did your wife say to you, sorry, when you said you wanted to get into broadcasting?
She was so supportive. She was actually the one who had pushed me to do it. We had seen on Pembina Valley Online that there was an ad for ASTV looking to do some player profiles as well as some other stuff. And after doing some a supper meeting with Glenn Munford, he had talked to me about the possibility if I'd be interested in doing some broadcasting. And I kind of always thought that might be something that'd be cool just through listening to other podcasts and stuff like that. And I thought, man, that'd be real cool to do, just to talk sports and talk hockey. And that kind of all kind of came to fruition when Glenn had kind of offered it, and I said I'd give her a try, and it's been great since.
Absolutely. So growing up, Cody, obviously you listened to radio or watch TV, and did you have a famous announcer, a play-by-play, a color guy? You said podcasts. Are there certain podcasts or people that you emulate or, really interested you and said, you know what, I want to be just like, or I really enjoy listening to this person?
Yeah, a podcast I really like is Spit and Chicklets. I know that one's a little bit more on the PG side of things than, a lot of other stuff, but a lot of the, just the fun, friendly banter between the hosts is something I really enjoy. Something that kind of sparked my interest even more. Just seeing how fun it can be to kind of banter with your guests and just overall just a good experience, fun experience.
So you're working with Graham Forsyth this past year with Pilot Mountain. Who was more the Biz Nasty and who was more the Pink Whitney?
I would say I'd be a little bit more Biz Nasty than Graham, just because Graham seems very clean cut, not as off the beaten path. So I would say I'd be a little bit more Biz Nasty. He'd be a little bit more Pink Whitney.
So we got some podcasts down. And when it comes to the color and the play-by-play, who's your go-to voice? I mean, we're in playoff season right now. Leafs are playing tonight. who would, if you could pick anybody to announce or to do the color or the play-by-play for these games, who would it be?
I often listen to the local Dennis Bayak here, but I do really like John Buchagras. I have heard him call a couple games. He's very vocal and very emotional. Really adds emotion into the game when you're listening to him in his voice.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the older crowd might recognize Bob Cole, Harry Neal. That's kind of where I mean, Bob Cole in a playoff game. I don't even need the TV on. I just need to listen to his voice. He's just that good. God bless him, and as well as Harry Neal. And the bottom line is, there's some great names and great voices coming around. I think with local and regional coverage, I think we're seeing more and more difference and emotion, like you said, but also the character change in sports announcing and broadcasting, and it's only growing. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree. Just being a little bit more personable, it seems to be, as things grow on. You get a little bit more. There seems to be more want to see behind the scenes, and just be more personable.
Where do you want to see your broadcasting path go to, Cody?
I really don't have a set path. This has been something that I've kind of just kept telling myself, I'm gonna ride the wave and see where it takes me. I really don't have no set goal, just because it is still so. I don't know if it's been even a full year that I've been doing it, so I guess it really depends on what my kind of growth and that is. But I'm really happy to continue doing it with ASTV for the time being, for sure.
On the ice here with Cody Wall. Cody has his own show, Off the Wall with Cody Wall. It's a bit of a play on words there, if you will. But this past year, Cody and Graham had a full year with some trials and tribulations. We've got to thank Mother Nature a little bit with heading down to Pilot Mound. I call it the infamous dead zone path when it comes to right near La Riviere. And there's the dead zone. I always kid with Glenn, you could hide a dead body here or a place there, but you have zero cell service. You have the slickest roads on the nicest days, but it's on the way to Pilot Mound. You guys had some adversity all season. And I give the viewers an idea of, the travel there and lack thereof because of the weather.
Yeah, there definitely was some crazy conditions. I remember, driving to Pilot Mound. There'd be drifts that are, as big as the vehicle. And, there was a couple occasions where, we were driving along at 40 kilometers an hour and couldn't see, 10 feet in front of us. I had to, unfortunately, I believe it was on 4 occasions, we had to turn around just due to either blowing snow or just overcast roads. It just was a crazy year. I know Glenn saying, in his all these years that he's been calling with Pilot Mound, he's never had this kind of terrible weather where he had to actually cancel that many broadcasts. So for me, it was, the first year, normal year for him, it was definitely a big change from being able to get to Pilot Mound as often as we did.
Working with ASTV down in Pilot Mound, 3 teams were able to get to know some of the players firsthand and get to notice their lifestyle a little bit, how impressive it is as a hockey academy for such a small town area.
Yeah, definitely. There are definitely some players that kind of stick out a little bit more. I'm going to use, hopefully it sounds as I mean it as a good word, but like flamboyant personalities. Like Laz Constant is definitely a guy who stands out. He's definitely a guy who you can see he's got a little bit of swagger on the ice. A player I liked even before I got a chance to talk to them more in Calgary was Bo Bannerman. He was one of the couples or families that I was stuck in Calgary with. I definitely really liked his game. Carson Carrolls was another player who you can see he's got a lot of on ice swagger. Sam Takahashi, a number of players who who really you over time you see them consistently doing certain things and you see those patterns. And if you appreciate them or you like them, like I like the way that Laz is able to be a physical but yet still offensive player. That's definitely something that when watching the Pilot Mountain games, I kind of gravitate to watching and liking on the ice.
Certainly. And with the fourth team upcoming, Cody, it just gives you another 20 names you get to know, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to be fun seeing that Pilot Mountain adds another team. Like you said, more names to learn, more personalities to kind of get to know while we're there, get to watch them on the ice, and most of the time off the ice as well. When the U15s are playing, you'll see a lot of the girls hockey team there. U17 players will be there watching now. They'll be adding a U18 program, so some even more fans, even more mentors for a lot of those younger players as well.
Last question before we head to our final break here on the ice here with Cody Wall. Cody, tell me a bit about the attitude, the atmosphere of hockey returning to small town Pilot Mound after not being around for over 18 months. How important is it for an academy or any hockey for that matter to be played, and its importance to a community as the fans, the players, and the people that love the sport so much?
Yeah, you could definitely see that the community of Pilot Mountain really loves the Buffaloes Hockey Academy. You see a number of fans around town sporting, hats, T-shirts. They'll have jerseys from past players coming to watch the games. There's just a great culture around the team. You can feel that they're trying to build that homegrown, very personable feel, not like a lot of those bigger academies. It kind of make you feel a little bit more one-on-one with the town and with the community.
Did you become first name basis with a lot of the people there?
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot of the coaches' names, a couple of the parents' names as well, and a couple of fans. The reoccurring fans that are always there, always chatting with you. You definitely learn some names through that as well.
Never gonna pass down a free cup of coffee from a recurring fan or a parent, if you will. I always enjoyed the off comments that Glenn would give, saying someone so and so is watching from Germany or from Southern California. Or we even had a kid with Takahashi, for example, that's from Asia, which is fantastic. So you hear from the parents and you hear that, yeah, we're watching you guys. Thanks for putting the game on, kind of thing. And it's not just the Buffalo players and teammates and parents, it's the visiting teams as well, because they're the ones that also get to enjoy the feeds, because we do provide them free of charge and live on YouTube, our YouTube channels there, and on Pilot Mountain Hockey. So great to see, and it's great to hear that hockey and the attitude and just the importance of the game is back. We're going to take one more quick break. Cody, stay with us here on the ice, and we're going to talk about what's going on now in the NHL playoffs. See if Cody's got a favorite or not, and see if he's got a pregame meal to support his favorite team to maybe win a Stanley Cup. Back on the ice in just a second. Back here on the ice with Cody Wall. Thanks to our sponsors again, Dokes Fields, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, and of course, we just spent about 6-7 minutes talking about Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. Cody, we got NHL playoffs. You sound like a hockey guy. You sound like a guy that likes left turns a lot. I enjoy left turns just as much as a right turn. It's a little bit tighter. You got to be careful. But we've got some fantastic playoff hockey happening. And the reason why I call it fantastic is because we knew Colorado was going to blow Nashville out of the water, but the rest of the series have been not 5 games. They've been going 6, maybe 7. And tonight we've got the Leafs and we've got the Oilers going down. Both teams are in different positions. Do the Leafs get by Tampa? And does Edmonton forced a game 7. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I don't know if Darnell Nurse being out of this game, I think that's going to be a huge issue for the Oilers, just because their defense already is something that a lot of personnel and analysts kind of pick on. So missing a key their number one defender, I don't know if they'll have somebody that can log the minutes, because you're going to have to essentially give now minutes to, I believe they brought up Philip Broberg to slot in today. You're going to have to now depend on a guy like him who, he did get some games this year, but this is big time. Edmonton has their backs against the wall, but you can never count out Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Personally, I'd love to see if Edmonton can get by them. I'd love to see McDavid be able to make a deep run, but just with Nurse being out this game, I don't know if this is going to be the nail in their coffin. And then the Maple Leafs.
Before we go to the Leafs, but I got to ask you this because you talk on Darnell Nurse, and I got to say this. Darnell Nurse is not a rookie. Darnell Nurse is not someone you would consider having a character issue. Why are we seeing players, and I'm going to name Darnell, I'm going to put Darnell Nurse on the pedestal here. Why are we seeing players like Darnell Nurse take stupid moves, plays, remarks, and thinking they're going to get away with it? I mean, $5,000 fines is peanuts for these NHL players. But when you lose your opportunity to play in a game 6, none of your players are going to throw you under the bus if you lose game 6, but publicly they won't. But
right.
Privately, and Darnell Nurse himself is saying, hey, you know what, that was probably the stupidest thing I could have done.
Yeah, definitely. Darnell Nurse always has kind of been a player that I think that sometimes the wires will cross and he's not quite able to control himself. Other years he's kind of done some questionable stuff. He's not, I wouldn't say by no means a dirty player, but just there are a couple instances in the past that, I think he gets in that emotional state and it just kind of shuts off his mind for a second and he does something like headbutting another player.
Headbutting a player, Jamie Benn using his stick inside the netting to, fish somebody's nostril. The Jacob Trouba hit on Sydney. I don't know if it was dirty or not. I don't think it was. You're seeing slashes on Buchnevich. I mean, the list goes on and on. Let's go to Toronto. I mean, 67 Leafs fans are dying for a Stanley Cup. They've had the most talent in Canada outside of 29 and 87 on the Oilers roster. Can they get a deeper push, and do they win tonight?
With Toronto coming into game 6 with a lead, I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off today, but I definitely think if they would have lost last game, this series would have swung Tampa's way just because of how good Tampa Bay seems to respond. I can't remember what their record is coming off a loss in the playoffs, but they are a strong team that does respond. Toronto definitely, I think, is going to come out hard. They do have some players like Matthews and Marner, Nylander, Tavares to, if they can kind of put the team on their back, that could be something that, today would definitely be the day to do it.
16-0 is the record after a loss Tampa has. They haven't lost one in back-to-back games in 16, thanks to Mr. Vasilevsky. Does a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup this year, yes or no?
No, I don't think so. Not with the way that the Canadian teams are doing so far. I don't know if either of them can make a deep run. I did think that Calgary would be Canada's best shot. I just thought they had such a deep team. They, top to bottom, have a Vezina quality goalie. I thought they were going to be having no issue with Dallas.
Ottinger has definitely played well. I think Calgary does have the best goalie of the three teams, and I still think Calgary will get past Dallas. Does Colorado enjoy the fact that they have extra time off, or is that going to hurt them come the second round when they have to potentially play the Wild or the Blues?
I think it might hurt them just because statistically, a lot of teams that do sweep in the first round do come out a little bit slow and kind of. I don't want to say they're dragging their feet, but they definitely don't come out with the same spark as the adrenaline-filled Game Sevens.
How big is it the fact that we don't see two teams in the Western Conference, our hometown, the Jets, who didn't push all the chips in as much as Vegas to get into the playoffs. But do those two teams, are they affecting playoff caliber hockey? Or does it really matter because we're still seeing great matchups anyway?
I think we're still seeing great matchups either way. Definitely were some strong teams that didn't make the playoffs for whatever reason. I guess it depends on your perspective of if the Jets were considered a strong team or not. I know there were a bunch of people who did think they were fairly strong on paper at the beginning of the year, but I think there was a lot of holes that kind of were exposed. One thing I don't think the Jets have a lot of top four defensemen. They don't, I think, have a number one or number two defenseman, and that's something that I think has kind of hurt them for a couple of years now since they've lost Bufflin. Even though he was a little bit slower, he definitely still was he was that number one that could control a game regardless of what he needed to do.
He had a presence, no matter what. I won't deny that. Will I call him a defenseman? No, because he was a forward as well. He was someone that you were scared to go down his wing. Just ask Mr. Stone. Bottom line is, yeah, we have a lot of great caliber. We don't have elite caliber. We don't have, a prime Duncan Keith. We don't have a prime defenseman that, we don't have a Victor Hedman. Will we find him next year? I don't know. We'll get back to the Jets in just 1 second, but who do you have coming out of the East if it's not Toronto?
I would say I like the Hurricanes. They are a deeper team. They do have a lot of depth on defense. That is something that I think, they always say defense wins championships. I know that's usually with football, I believe, but defense definitely is a big aspect, and I think I'd like to see them go far.
Last question before I let you go, Cody Wall on the ice. Who coaches the Jets next year?
I like some of the articles I've been reading about Barry Trotz. I think that with the Jets not having somebody who's a bona fide number one, number two defenseman, you get a defensive strong coach in there to teach an all-around team defense. And I think that ideally, I'd like to see Barry Trotz, the coach of the Winnipeg Jets. But not sure if Winnipeg is going to be the number one landing spot for him. He is a popular coach. He's going to have a lot of offers, I think. So, in a perfect world, Barry Trotz.
He also is a Dolphin boy, so it wouldn't be too far from home, right, Cody?
Right, definitely. I keep holding that in the back of my head as something that puts him over the top to come home.
Cody Wall, I want to thank you for your time this evening on the ice. Really appreciate it. It's good to catch up with you finally. I didn't have the chance to do so all season, but I'm glad you were able to do that. The camp, Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp this past weekend, and the Brick upcoming, probably yourself and myself, as well as everyone else here at ASTV, will have some player interviews upcoming for some of the members that were currently have past experience of the Brick and now moved on in their careers professionally. We're trying to land as many of those as we can in the next upcoming month before that. But as well, I really would appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining me.
And thanks for having me on, Theo. Been a pleasure getting to know you more, and look forward to talking to you more in the future here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Cody.
Yep, thank you.
And that was Cody Wall here on the ice. I'd like to thank our sponsors once again, Dokesbrook Fields, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, and Padamount Hockey Academy. We'll be back after the weekend on Tuesday, 6 o'clock as always. Make sure you do check out Off the Wall with Cody Wall weekly on ASTV and all of our social media, because that's it for us tonight, bringing more goodness to the greatness here on ASTV. Take care of yourselves, take care of your neighbors. If you have flood waters out there, please let's make sure those waters recede nicely and quietly. We don't need any more damage. I got docks to fix. Yeah, it's not cool. Anyway, I'll digress. Thank you for watching again. Have a great evening and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.